Emem is aggressive. She is. Emem is aggressive. She is. And I know that people are not going to like what I have to say about her, but she is aggressive. And Ikechi is a horrible person. And Emem needs to date out. So let's talk about those three distinct things that can all be true at the same time. Emem is absolutely aggressive in her personality. Now, I understand that that can be considered derogatory because, you know, there's this stereotype for Black women that like we're just snap your fingers, violent, aggressive. And I know that people hate that, but the truth is that Emem is aggressive about her life. She's serious about her life. And I don't think it's a bad thing. She reminds me of the women from New York that I've met. White women, by the way, not Black women from New York that I've met who are just like go-getters. They're very straightforward and direct. They don't play games. And no one seems to like call them aggressive. They're just like, oh, they're from New York. But when it's Emem, it's like, she's aggressive. Yeah, she's direct. She runs a successful business. She knows what she wants. And I'm sorry, but a normal, healthy man might be okay with that. Someone who is at her level might be okay with that because they understand how that mindset actually prevails in a business world. Now, people have different opinions on whether or not women should behave like that, but I think that there's a person out there for her who will appreciate that level of directness, that level of straightforward communication, and that level of passion. Could she soften things up a little bit? I think so. But here's where I want to divert from that thought process a little bit. I don't think there is anything Emem could do and could have done for Ikechi not to call her aggressive. I don't think there's anything she could have done. When a man, number one, feels intimidated by you, and number two, doesn't find you attractive, he will automatically find things wrong with you. We do the same thing. If we don't find someone attractive or we have some sort of aversion to them, then everything that they do will be negative. And I quite frankly think that's what's happening with Emem and Ikechi. He didn't even find, in my opinion, he didn't find her attractive in the beginning, even at the wedding. And so the fact that she was very much into the idea of getting married, aggressive. The fact that she was very much into communicating about their future, aggressive. So he was already not attracted to her. And then he saw her place and was like, I can't compete with this. Like and he said, I am beneath you. And he knew it. He is not at her level financially. He is not at her level in terms of readiness for marriage. He's not at her level in terms of readiness for healthy communication and emotional stability. So it makes sense that he would find her to be aggressive because he's simply not ready. One of the things that he complained about is the fact that she asked if he would move in after they got married. That's a normal question for a show like this, as Pastor Kyle pointed out. But number one, if you don't find someone attractive, and number two, if you don't feel like at their level, you're going to feel intimidated by those kinds of questions. And that's why Ikechi is this way. My third point was that Emem needs to date out. 100% she needs to date out. And I don't just mean racially. I think Emem needs to really figure out the kind of man that is suited for her and her personality. Ikechi is not it. And here's why. He's this sort of like creative, I don't really care. He's also unwell emotionally, you guys. Any man, my dad used to say this, any man that number one argues with women, like is like sassy, is scary. Because they actually don't have a healthy distinction between men and women, or male and female. So men who argue with women in sort of this like sassy way, they're dangerous because you don't know if they're gonna like swing on you, or because they don't actually respect women for being women. And you can say anything you want. Oh, you don't get to talk to men. No, healthy men simply do not engage with women in the same way that women engage with women. And when you look at Ikechi, he engages like a woman. It's giving
ain't got no daddy. Like, it's giving raised by just a mother. Like, and I hate to say that, but that's true. When these men are sassy like that, it's like you didn't have healthy male role models in your life. And so I can tell that you engage like a woman. And that's how Ikechi is. You're a but, you're a this, you're a that. Like, that's very feminine. And so Emem is just out of his league. And so she needs to maybe date out racially also, because unfortunately, the statistics around men who are at her level financially, and who are also Black and who also date Black women, that puts her in like the less than 1% percentile. So when I was dating, actually, my sister, she's a statistician, we did this whole thing, this whole chart, and looked up data, and it's true. At some point, once you make past a certain amount of money, as a Black woman, if you limit your choices racially to just Black men, you are putting yourself in a very precarious situation, because most Black men who make a certain amount of money, who are eligible to be married, do not date Black women or are not interested in that. So you have to be wise about what you are, if you want to be married, or is it more important for you to be married to a Black person, then you might have to wait a little bit. But lowering your standard for a person like Ikechi is not it. And here's the crazy thing about them particularly. Ikechi knows that he's not at her level. In fact, he made an interesting statement. He said, it didn't matter. He said, it didn't matter who was in the chair. She would have loved anybody, which he finds her to be desperate. He finds her to be, as not having any standards. And maybe that speaks to the fact that he knows he's trash. So why would you want someone like me? There's two sides to that. He could know that he's trash, and he could also be like, in his mind going, you have all of these accomplishments. You live a completely different lifestyle than I do. Why would you want me? So your behavior, you just want to be married. And I do think that that's something that maybe Emem needs to work on. It really bothered me that she begged for him back. I was like, sis, it kind of validated his statement that it really doesn't matter who's in that chair. She's like, I just want to be married, so that it doesn't really matter, which is not a healthy place to be. You don't want to just pick up anybody off the street just because they're married. So, or just because, they're on the show or whatever. And especially if he treats you poorly like this, like the resentment in his spirit is foul. But back to dating out, you want to date, you want to date outside of the typical sort of neighborhood that you would typically date in, outside of the typical and demographic, not racially, but outside of your typical financial demographic, outside of your typical area in terms of where you live, outside of your typical like places that you go. When you're in a position like Emem, you have to do that, because otherwise, number one, you'll keep attracting the same men over and over again. Remember, Emem said, every time a guy sees my place, he kind of gets a little finicky. I'm like, yeah, babe, because you keep choosing the same hot mess Harrys over here who are not at your level. So when they see your place, they feel their fragile egos are kind of broken. So you got to kind of choose outside of a different demographic, and outside of a different attitude, meaning she might need to get somebody from like New York, or she might need to date an attorney, someone who will appreciate her, like I said, her directness, her boldness, her passion. Ikechi can't appreciate that because he's not where he wants to be in his life. If he was selling books, like actually selling his books and doing worldwide tours, I don't know that he would call her aggressive. I think he'd be like, yeah, that's my woman, like blah, 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 blah. Aside from the fact that he's not really that attracted to her. I don't think he likes darker skinned women, but he wouldn't necessarily feel that sort of that angst. But because he, again, is not accomplished in his own right, he feels that, that sort of tension with her. And this is why it's really important for women it's not necessarily about the money. It's not necessarily about, does he make as much money as you? It's really about, is he accomplished in his own right? And is he secure in his own right? Because I think I've said this in other videos, but like, I don't care if I'm making $200,000 a year and my husband makes 150, the difference really isn't that great to me. I don't care. But if I'm making 200 and he's making 80, that's a completely different lifestyle. So when someone's living a completely different lifestyle than you, they can start to feel tension. And that's, unless they're very, very secure, that's really difficult for a lot of men to handle. So it's really about finding someone who is secure in their own right and successful in their own right. Someone who feels like they've accomplished what they wanted to accomplish. So here's the other thing. I think about men who maybe make, let's say Emem makes 300K. I don't know. She's in the medical field and like a real medical professional. Like she's either a PA or an NP. So let's say she makes 300,000 a year and Ikechi makes 80. If Ikechi had $500,000 in the bank and she only had $100,000 in the bank, again, he might feel more secure because he's like, you know what? I have money saved. I own my own home. So even though I don't have your like salary, I have these assets, or I have investments, or I have, do you see what I'm saying? Like it's not necessarily just about the salary. It's about what they've accomplished and what they feel like they, what they have stored up even, I guess. Because I know plenty of teachers, you guys, who have hundreds of thousands of dollars in stocks, and they teach because it's good insurance. So it's not just about the salary. What I think the true issue here is that Ikechi doesn't have the success that Emem has, on top of the fact that she's very direct and she's eager and she's 100% in and she's 10 toes down. And he's like, one, my spirit is grieved because I'm not where you are. Number two, I don't find you that attractive. And number three, I'm unwell. Like, he is an unhealed man. There's people in comment sections like talking about how much they've dated him in Houston, and he is not well emotionally. And I think we all got a glimpse of that on Married at First Sight these last few episodes. He's not well. And I have to say this to you, ladies, if a man is willing to call you outside of your name, it's a no for me. And it should be a no for you. That is a very specific trait that only escalates. Men who are willing to do that lack serious boundaries. So anyway, that's it for today's video. I know some of that got cut off in the end because my timer went off, but I just wanted to share my thoughts on Emem and Ikechi. I haven't done a Married at First Sight video in a long time, but thought I would do it anyway. Hope you guys enjoyed this little recap and chat, and don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Remember, you can disagree. You just have to do so respectfully. Thanks for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.